100 Pounds Down is proudly brought to you by my agency, JKD Global. This is your time to let loose and experience the transformative power of travel. I spent more than a decade as an administrator for a billion-dollar nonprofit prior to becoming a travel advisor. So I uniquely understand the demands and pressures of your everyday and the need for restorative experiences that nourish you, mind, body, and soul. From guided tours and luxury cruises, group and solo expeditions, to all inclusive resorts where every detail is taken care of, I design experiences that transcend the ordinary and help you find the balance and renewal you deserve. JKD Global Travel, curating moments of purposeful immersion for professionals to recharge, recenter, and reconnect with what matters most. Start your journey at jkdtravel.com. Welcome back to 100 Pounds Down, where we preach the gospel of GLP-1 and the word is good. I'm Kristen DiBiase, and I have struggled with obesity for my entire life, but then I lost over 41% of my body weight taking tirzepatide, also known as Mounjaro or Zepbound, and I'm never going back. If you are interested in learning about weight loss injections, you've already started your journey, or you're heading toward that maintenance phase and wondering what comes next, bring it in. Today, we have got something amazing and awesome for everyone. And this is my very first collab. I am interviewing and chatting with my great friend, Angela Durant from Zepbound Journey with Ange. A lot of people who are on my channel came to me by way of Ange, and she is amazing. And so I am so excited to have her on the show today. So let's bring her in.
Hello. So
Hi.
wonderful to be here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
This is so great. I remember when Ange and I first met, we were joking because there was some mutual stalking going on.
And I was stalking her.
But then I stalked her back. So it was totally fine and it was totally cool. It had been an immediate friendship affair for sure. And I find that really valuable because I don't get that super often with people. I'm often kind of neutral on folks. More rarely, I'm kind of like about somebody, but very, very rarely do I kind of interact with somebody and I'm like, oh, this is a person for me. This is a person. Yeah. So yeah,
I
you're
felt
just
the same way. I was like, oh yeah, she's a friend in my head. She's a friend. And I love your channel. I love how you put together your content, and it is a resource for my channel. So I'm just so glad to have found you, and then to get to meet you and know how cool you are is just a cherry on the top. So thank you for having me here.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here. One of the things that Ange and I were kind of joking around about is Ange said that when we interact, in her head, she feels like we're Oprah and Gayle. And I'm like, yes, and I'm the Gayle.
And I'm Oprah. You know how Gayle always knows, like she has all the ends. She knows what's going on in pop culture, and Kristen is like, she knows about the Kardashians. She knows about what's going on with Khloe. She knows what's going about all of these
what's happening on these TikToks and stuff. And Ange is just all heart. I mean, it's so inspiring. Like it's Ange's show and Ange herself are like a warm hug. And that is something that people really need now, and we're just not getting it, you know, in measure that we need it. And so it's great to be in a place where there's a community where that is the approach. You know, it's refreshing, it's supportive, it's important for people who are in the situations that we are in, and struggling with the things that we've struggled with, you know.
Sure. Thank you. Yep, for sure.
Yeah. So one of the things that is really neat about Angie's channel is that she is one amazing, but she's just got this great entrepreneurial spirit, and she is really talking to her audience from the vantage point of her Be Brilliant movement. Can you tell us a little bit about the movement, Ange?
Sure, absolutely. So the Be Brilliant movement is actually founded on the scripture that says that light should never be hidden, that nobody lights a candle and hides it under a bushel, but they place it on a stand so it gives light to everybody in the house. And it was an epiphany that I had because I'd worked in corporate America. I'm a full-time entrepreneur now, but I worked in corporate America, and I was working with all these people who had these hidden talents, right? They were just really talented at some specific thing, but they were doing something that they were competent at, right? They're making money as a director of sales, but they're really great writing children's books, right? They were making money being an operations manager, but they were really great at creating these beautiful events. And I started looking around. I was like, everybody has something, but it's hidden. And if the world could just experience those things that they're really great at, we would all benefit, right? It would be a blessing for everybody. And so I was driving home one day and I had this epiphany, like everybody has something, but they're like hidden talents. And then I thought about that scripture and how the light should not be hidden. That, I feel like we're all connected. So like when you rise, we all rise. When you show up fully and shine, like that puts light on me too and gives me permission to shine. So out of that, the Be Brilliant movement was born. And what I started using as a vehicle to help people really shine, I say help them be seen, heard, and valued for the brilliance they bring to the world. What I started using was brand strategy because I'm a brand strategist. So that's how it all. That's the idea behind the Be Brilliant movement.
I love that. And the collaborativeness of it is the part that jumps out to me the most, because that is the approach that I have always taken in life as well. You can have success and you can do things without having to tear other people down or to do what you do at other people's expense. That has just always been a thing. It just really just grates on me when people come at life from that viewpoint, because that is not living in or coming from abundance. It just is not.
And what's amazing is that everybody has something amazing and brilliant, right?
Everyone.
And we're like the two of us, like we're two Black women, that we're showing up, beautifully online, right? But we have different styles, right? That we can complement each other. It's not like, oh, I saw her, I have to outperform her. No, like
Right.
we can work together. Like she can help me. I send people to her community. She sends people to my community. And I think, and there's a richness in that, that, our people get to benefit from both of us, and so, I'm all for really tapping into other people's talents, and really, appreciating them for what God has given them, for appreciating them for what they bring to the world.
Yes. Everyone has something unique that can be a blessing to other people. And this is not the Highlander. There does not have to be only one.
Right. Like taking people out, right? So,
Okay. Oh, okay. So for those who have not seen Ange before, Ange is a little over I think you're during your 11th week now of your journey on her channel, Zepbound Journey with Ange. And so she is very much near the beginning. I'm kind of that person who's way down there at the end. And we thought we would chat a little bit just around, what are the things that people aren't talking about, because we both kind of noticed there's all kinds of flotsam and jetsam out there, just all kinds of really interesting things that you could talk about around this medication and life and things like that, but it just kind of never comes up. And so we thought we would do that meandering kind of route and get to chat a little. And so for me, this is going to be a little more laid back. We're not going to bring out the pie charts. right? The Geiger counters,
Mhm.
we're gonna take the lab coat off a little bit today and just chill,
Mhm.
and just chill with our gang, chill with our
Mhm.
girl. Yeah.
Mhm. Sounds good to me.
So one of the things that I liked so much about you when we first had that 5 billion hour long
Our
conversation
marathon
the first
conversation.
time, yeah. There we have lots of similarities. Like we're not twinsies,
Mhm.
but there's lots of overlap there,
Mhm. Mhm.
and both of us have struggled with obesity since we were young. Both of us tried having a bariatric procedure, and it just didn't really work that well for us. It's uncanny, some of the things, um, but we are different too.
Mhm.
And so I'd like to kind of lean into some of those differences around things. So for example, my husband has been on this journey with me
Mhm.
as well. I know from when we chatted, Angie's husband, apparently, like, he's some hot buff cyclist. I haven't seen this man yet, but I have heard tale
Mhm. Mhm.
of Angela's husband. So, what is it like being kind of? I mean, you're not alone because you're partnered.
Mhm.
And if you're with a good partner, which it sounds like you are, I know he's supporting you.
Mhm.
But how do you feel being the only one in the house who was on the journey?
Yeah, and I will say that my husband is very fit, right? He loves to ride his bike. He golfs. Like when he does ride bike, he does his bike. He rides for charity, and he rides from last year he did from New York to Princeton, New Jersey, from Princeton to Philadelphia on his bicycle, right? So he's like, he wants to lose weight. He's like, oh, I might have a little bit of a belly. I need to get rid of this. He just goes out and he does tennis, or he's very active, and he eats well. Like he'll say, I'll say, oh, that tastes nasty. He's like, it's not about the taste. It's healthy for us. Right. So that's who my husband is, right? My husband is a doer, get it done, very focused. He's amazing. He brings some brilliance to the world, but we are very different, right? We are very different. And in his prior to this journey, I've done other things, right? So he was there with me when I was getting ready to have bariatric surgery for the second time. Like he was there. And I think for him, he brought to it like, you know, you just have to eat less and work out, right? Like just very black and white. Like you want to lose. The science says eat less, you lose and work out. Just like I can do it, you can do it, right? But that didn't work for me, right?
Mhm.
That was not, and that approach didn't work for me. Like I needed someone, and I needed a community that was compassionate, that would come alongside me on the journey, that who would, if I had a day or a week where I gained, they would say, it's okay, you got this, Ange, right? And not that he doesn't love me, but his approach is just different, right? He's like, you have a target, you go after it, you get it done, right? You hunt, you kill, you eat, right? Right? And so for me, the first time that I went to see my doctor, I have a whole medical team. When I first went to go see Dr. D, who is a specialist for obesity medicine. And I felt like I need to come up with all the excuses, all the reasons, when people are looking over your chart and they're like, okay, you weigh this amount, you've done this, you've done that. And I felt like I needed to do that with her. And she looked at me. She came from behind her computer, because you know how the doctors are putting everything in the computer. She came from behind. She sat across from me, and I was sitting in one of those double wide chairs that they have in the obesity, specialty rooms, right?
Yeah.
Double side chair, and she sat across from me, a tiny fit, every hair in place gal, and she held my hands and she said, Ange, obesity is a disease. Obesity is a disease, and that's how we're gonna treat it. Like it's a disease. And I'm not typically somebody that would like is a marshmallow would like fall apart, but I just wept in her office. I cried because I felt like the world, society has always looked at us, or I felt like it's looked at me as a failure, as somebody who is just heavy, just eats way too much, this lazy, doesn't work out, and can't get it done. Right. And
Or, oh, it's such a shame because she's so pretty.
oh, she has such a pretty face. Right. And
Oh God, the pretty face.
yeah, and I felt like my whole life was about achievement and working really hard and trying to prove, your worth through your act, your doing. And in her office, I could just be human, right? I
Mhm.
could just be human and know that I have somebody who could see me, somebody who could hear me, somebody who could come alongside me and fight this battle with me, right? And not judge me, not judge me. And so that's what I found for my medical team. And that has, in addition to having that and having the community, it's really been a great support, and it is what I needed. Now, some people are like, they might just get ticked off and be like, all right, we're going to do this. Like maybe that could be their approach. For me, I needed compassion. I needed kindness. I needed somebody who saw me as a human and didn't treat me like you got to just do it like, okay, we know it's a disease. Now what? Right. And so with my husband, what's been really great is I go to my doctor, like, how did it go? I'm like, I'm down 10 pounds. He's like, oh, okay. Cause let me just tell you, I paid out of pocket for the first, for the first
Yeah.
3 months, I've been paying out of pocket. And so, he was looking at me with the side eye, like that's with the coupon is $550. That's
Yeah.
an additional monthly expense, right? That insurance wasn't paying for. And so I think he never said it, but I felt like he was saying, you've tried all these other things. Like, do we really need to pay $550 for a medication that might not work? That maybe you might not follow through on it, right? That you might be eating something not supposed to be eaten on the medication, right? And
Uh-huh.
he's seen it all before, right? He's seen it all before. And what's been really beautiful about it is that on this medication, because of what it does up here,
Yeah.
uh, I've been able to have, it's only been 3 months. I'm like 11, 12 months, 12 weeks in, but I'm down over 30 pounds. And every time I lose a chunk, he's like, wow, that's great. He's like, wow, that's great. Now he's sending people to my channel. Like, he's showing up in my channel, like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, but my husband's name is Bill. He's like, Bill told me to come. Bill told me to come. So he's been really great, making sure I'm getting protein shakes, like making sure he's really behind the scenes, really supporting the effort. And I think it's because he sees me, out there trying and doing what I can and building a community to help and serve other people. And
Mhm.
now he's one of my biggest supporters. So it
He's
didn't
the
start.
Stedman.
Yeah, he's my Stedman.
That is so good to hear. And honestly, that is one of the reasons why I started my channel. The story that you just told, as he saw the results that you were getting from this. You could, I mean, he sounds like, I'm not going to say like a sciency version of a person. He's not necessarily like me, but
He's
he
very
sounds
analytical. He's very analytical. He's a black and white
he
kind of guy. Super smart. He does have a lot of traits like you because he will do the research, right? He is very smart. But we're
so
different.
yeah, people like that. So Angela, who has married me, and they see evidence, they change their minds. That's what I like about people who are analytical. You can show me the evidence, I will change my mind. And that's the approach that I liked to take with my channel, and with you and other people like you sharing your stories and having that community of people that get to share their experiences together. Number one, you are all supporting each other, but then number two, all of you are the proof. You are all the evidence that it's not what they've been saying all along. It's not just that simple mathematical equation. There are other factors that are coming into play here. And that was why, I mean, when I first saw that this was exploding, I'm like, wow, this could really like just blow the doors off of everything around how we look at people and how we view obesity. It's not a moral failing. It is a medical condition. And if we could do that, if we could reframe and realize that it's not people's own lack or not good enough or laziness or whatever, what would that then do to the relationships around people and between people? Because I feel like for me, you know, when we say that the pretty face thing, I was saying to Ange during our, again, 5-year conversation, the first time we talked, I was like, you and I are very lucky because I mean, I am not an egotistical person. I have a pretty face and you do too.
Thanks.
We are very lucky in that way. We also carry the amount of weight that we have when we are carrying too much weight better than some other people. That's a privilege among people who have obesity that not everyone has.
Right.
You know, and I think culturally people just seem to expect that even at a larger size, there's a certain way that we look and we can still be attractive at times. But you know, when you think about like the dating market and things like that, and you think about people and their worth in the workplace and things of that nature, I feel like so much of that is wrapped up in this, in the back of our heads, like, oh, well, I'm fat and so I can't, you know, I can't do that part. So I have to do extra and just be better and perfect at everything else and just excel at, because I have to overcome the automatic negative or the deficit that you're going to assign just looking at me, just for the simple fact that I'm obese or that I have obesity, you know?
And I've often felt like, you know, I needed to be an overachiever because I couldn't lean on and I think there's a currency in being, you know, a certain size and having a certain look, right? I think there's a currency with that, but I think that I couldn't rely on, you know, being, you know, beautiful, right? In the eyes of my parents, you know, of course, they're like, oh, you're beautiful, right? But in society's eyes, so I always felt invisible when it came to that, right? When it came to attractiveness, I felt invisible. But I could be very visible when I showed up in my skills, when I showed up with my talents and gifts, then people would see me. Like you know, my gifts put me in front of, you know, opened many doors for me. So that's where I put all of my focus in learning and trying to be my best and professional and personal development and all those things, but not into the physical part of it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, you know, and I think that, you know, people do, if people who are overweight make less money, right? You get less dates, right? You might have less options in men, right? And when I met my husband, I was not this size. I always say I was a brick house when I met him, right? I was a bad mamma jamma when I met my husband, right?
My husband and I, we were 2 tons of fun when we met. So,
but I worried about that because this wasn't the girl he married, right? He married somebody that, you know, had curves in all the right places, right? I always tease him. I said, when I saw you, I was like, I had a hook in your cheek and I was slowly reeling.
I love it.
But, you know, we never talk about that as a couple. We never talked about that. But I feel like I want to be my best for me, but I also want to be my best for him too. And I think with all of the additional problems, the sleep apnea, the hypertension, all those things that came as a result of the weight, I think that worries him. That worries him, that is my wife going to be around for me and our son, you know, because this weight is out of control. Like you're 5'2.5" and you weigh 331 pounds. You know, that's a scary thing, right? That's a scary thing. So things are, you know, much better, but you know, the way that society views us. And I said, it's really interesting how you could be the biggest person in the room, but be invisible. Like people don't see that you're even there?
So bizarre. One of the things that I've noticed now, because I've gotten, to a lower weight and I'm now going to maintenance, is I don't know if I like people seeing me.
Sure.
That was a weird kind of thing. And folks who are watching, and that will happen to some of you. That
Yeah,
will be an experience that you get to. If you've never had it before, it will be jarring.
it
Um,
is. It is. You know what? Let's talk about that for a second, because the
yeah,
majority of the people who are watching us are on this journey. Like, most of them are not where you are yet. So I
right.
think this is an interesting conversation to have. Before I met my husband, I remember going into this office. It was a job that I had. I would go into this office, and me and some of my colleagues were sitting in the lobby, and there would be a guy who worked at this place too. And when I say he is fine, like, this man was like,
Fine with an O. Fine.
he was fine. And this guy was just beautiful, and he always smelled good, and he always looked good, right? Good guy. I love my husband. Let me just say, I love my husband. Right?
We love our hubbies.
But our husband was, but I didn't even know my husband back then, right?
He wasn't
And
even a dream.
he was just a dream, right? And one day, this incredibly gorgeous man helped me to my car, helped me load some things in my car, right? And he would come out and say hi, like, he would come out into the lobby to say hi to all of us ladies who were sitting out there, right? And as soon as he would leave, we'd be like, oh my gosh, that guy is so gorgeous, right? And we laugh and have fun, right? And this one day, he walked me to my car and he helped put some things in the car. And I opened the trunk and he put the things in the car, and then he paused and he looked me in the eye and he said, "You are a beautiful woman." Now I was much smaller than I was the brick house that I told you about that I was about to meet my husband. And I didn't know what to do with it. Like, so what I did was I said, "Thank you." I closed the trunk of the car. I got in the car and I like sped off, right? Like, I didn't even know. I was like, is he talking to me? So I get home and I tell my mom, I'm like, my mom knew who he was too. And I was like, and he said, and the way he said it, like, "You are a beautiful woman," right? I was like he saw something in me, like, and it was piercing, right? And I kept saying to my mom, like, I can't believe a handsome guy actually said that about me. And she's like, "Well, you are a beautiful woman. Like, you are." And I was like, "Yeah, you're going to say that because you're my mom. Like, you're supposed to say these things, right?" And she goes, "But no, like, you're an attractive woman." And I was like, "But no, but he said it. Like, he said it," right? And so when we talk about the transformation that we take and how we show up and how we look, because my spirit is brighter when I'm not carrying a load around with me, right? I'm always upbeat, like, I'm always the same Ange, but there's something lighter and brighter with less luggage, right? With less weight. And so, but I didn't know what to do with that because I couldn't see myself the way somebody else could see me, right? And he ended up being a great friend, right? A great friend, a super nice guy. But for me, I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know, like, oh, somebody can actually see me now. I'm not invisible in the room anymore. People are paying attention. And I always try to be, that heavy girl that was well put together, nice clothes, hair, makeup, like, oh, smells good,
Yeah.
But I always did that because I took pride in how I show up, right? But rarely did anybody ever, like, see me.
Nobody was clocking.
Nobody was trying to get my number. Like, I would go out with my girlfriends. They were getting all the numbers. Right? like
Oh, Lord.
nobody was like, unless they had a strange fetish, they weren't checking for me.
Correct. Yes. Okay. So let me do my Gayle thing and drop an acronym for you. It's called the DUF. They call it the DUF, the designated ugly fat friend.
Oh no,
I know, right? Like young people today are brutal. I don't know if how I would have fared in today's society at the age that some of these folks are now. Yeah, I That was my life. I was
But
a cool girl. You're a real cool girl,
yeah,
you
but I
know?
will tell you that it did serve me well because I could pick because I focused on the inside of a person. Yes, he was beautiful, but I always focused on whoever I dated, whoever I looked at, like whatever the values that I brought with me or what I was looking for I was always looking for a great guy, right? Somebody who was kind and considerate and a gentleman, right? I was always looking for the inside first and
Mhm.
then the outside. Like, you want to be attracted to the brother, but I'm just saying, like, I was looking for somebody who was kind, someone I could grow old with, right? Someone who was smart, right? And so
Yeah.
I didn't focus on it wasn't all about looks, which I think that served me well.
Yes, I agree, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm glad. And it was kind of it. My family laughs because I always forever when I was younger, I had like this whole like list of things. Like the person has to be a lot of the things on this list,
Mhm.
and I did not want to date someone else who was obese,
Mhm.
um, because I mean, back then we didn't know all of it. I mean, like I knew how much I was struggling around and what I was doing, but it's like, well, I'm weird. Most people probably aren't like me. I really am trying. I just don't look like it on the outside. If somebody else is also having a weight issue, like they're probably the people that they're not doing anything. And I don't know if I want to, I'm always trying to get to a different place from where I am. And I don't want to be with somebody who's not, there's like all of that. I mean, all
Mhm.
of us have been indoctrinated
Mhm.
in this thought pattern, even if we are higher on confidence in other places, it's still
Mhm.
seeping in, right?
Mhm.
And then I mean, literally, I was probably like at almost my highest. I mean, I think it was shoot, I was near the 280s, and that's when I met my husband randomly online. And he was overweight too, and he'd had bariatric surgery in his past,
Mhm.
and he'd lost a tremendous amount of weight from that already. He had, I think, my husband weighed, I want to say 430 pounds at one point. And that was far before he and I met, but we were both very, still very high, in our weight when we actually met,
Mhm.
and fell in love. And so this has been interesting because I've always, for the most part, been obese. And so at the point in time where I'm now getting attention from people, I'm in a completely different place in my life. Like I am married. I am not checking for any of you.
Right.
Thank you for the compliment,
But they're
sir. I'm
checking
gonna
for you. They're checking for you.
right.
I've seen those cute little outfits you have on the show.
Fashion's fun now. Like,
Mhm.
not everything is just a sack that only has one
Right.
shape,
That's right.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and so that's the part that's just really interesting, around that. I really do wonder, like, what would it have been like if this had happened when I was younger? Because there's always those situations where you were around people and like maybe there was something that could have been, but like you can tell that what is stopping that is because they're not interested in
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
because of how you look. And
Mhm.
so it it could be demoralizing
Yeah.
at points. And by the time I met my husband, I was kind of beyond like all of that, honestly. Like I really was feeling quite good about myself. I enjoy my own company a lot.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was absolutely fine with being alone. I mean, I was 30s when I met my husband. We'll be married 10 years this October, and we've been together 12.
Mhm.
And again, I tell my audience I don't like doing math in my head because I'm not good. I could tell you exactly how old I was when I met him if I felt like doing that math in my head right now. I think I was 31, maybe 32. Um, but yeah, because I hear it's hard out there, even for women that are conventionally attractive and
Mhm.
are not struggling with weight. So the apps are killing people,
Mhm.
apparently, in the dating world. It sounds like
Mhm.
a cesspool. I'm glad I'm not a part of it. If anything were ever to happen to my lovely husband, I would absolutely be single for the rest of my life. Fine
You
with
wouldn't
it.
be single for the rest of your life if somebody would snatch you right on up. So,
I have a lot. I'm a lot. It'd just be me and a
yes,
dog and a cat.
I think that when I started meeting people, I think one of the advantages that I had was my personality. Right, it was that I felt like I'm a good person. I'm kind. I want to take care of my man. Like my girlfriends are like, don't put that on your thing. You want to treat your man like a king. I was like, but I do. And I'm not this dichotomy of somebody who could be a businesswoman, but also very loving and want to care for my husband, right? And so, where my girlfriends were, it was all about looks, right? I had one girlfriend, like she has legs for days. I'm like, God knew what he was doing when he put me in this body, he put her in that body. Because if he gave me that body, I'd be wearing thigh-high boots, a pair of Daisy Dukes, my shirt would be knotted in the front, and maybe I would put on a blazer, maybe, because I'm a little conservative like that, right? You'd be like,
Yeah.
you'd be like, Ange, put on some clothes. We're going to church. Ange, this is the commencement at my college. Can you please, put some clothes on that's appropriate for the occasion, right?
Okay.
But with her, she's stunning. And I think that men were attracted to her for her looks, right? They
Yeah.
just wanted to be with her, right? They wanted to be with her, and they weren't always invested in who she was
Hmm.
as a person. And like with me, I'm like, you get the personality. Let's talk for a while first. You get to know me, and then they're like, I really like you. I want, you know what I mean? So I think, but I had to. That was all I had, right? I had to,
Right.
cultivate those things to build relationships, right?
Hmm.
And so I think, and it's not like you can't have, like, my girlfriend is smart too. She's, but she's stunningly beautiful, and
Right.
guys are like, I can't believe they're like mesmerized that they even get a yes to a date with her, right?
Right. Yeah. And she's like, hi, my brain's up here.
Right, exactly.
That
So,
is, yeah.
mhm.
It is profoundly different an experience to see. And it's kind of disappointing too, because you do realize that people do get treated differently. That is actually like a thing, I mean, you hear it anecdotally and you know it to be true, but
Mhm.
seeing it in real time when it happens, it's just like, wow, the world is kind of trash sometimes.
It really, one of the things that I think about with this medication is that sometimes when I see people on the street, and just to give everybody context who do not know me. So my highest weight, I was 331. When I started my journey here, I was 296. I'm now about a little over 30 pounds down, right? So I'm 3 months in, about 30 pounds down. I'm not that tall, right? So, to give you context about that. I was going to tell you something else. I just forgot my thought. We were talking about the our friends. Oh man, I was going
And
to tell you something.
your brain first, and you've got to lead with your personality and the skills that you
Mhm.
have, because people they're going to give you the chance to actually use those skills instead of just
Right,
being
right.
blinded by your.
Oh, I was going to tell you something else. And I just lost it. I'm sorry.
When it comes back, come back to it for
Yes,
sure.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah, it's,
Mhm.
I mean, the I think one of the things that people don't talk about with this is that idea of like when you are going into the workplace and having to be like a certain way and always having to carry yourself in a certain manner, not just like what I said on the front end, because they're going to devalue you, but it's like you just always have to be on point.
Mhm.
Um, Even if you are a good worker or
Mhm.
things, and the people who, are beautiful people, there's they can screw up. They can, you know, kind of half-ass things
Right.
at points in
Mhm.
time. And you're just
It
like,
feels
is
like it's
anybody
a
else
double
seeing
standard,
this?
right? It feels like it's a double standard. And
Yes.
I think also like being a woman of color can also put me like I felt like that kind of put me in an invisible space too.
Yes.
That on top of the weight, has been something that has been a point of where you feel like you got to do better, right? You have to be the best at what you do. You have to really shine when you show up, right? But I also think it's a mixed bag because coming from you know an African American culture where they, growing up is like they don't want you to be real thin, right? My grandma you made chicken and dumplings, right? She's like, you got little meat on your bones, right? Like you're. They used to say that I was pleasingly plump. Like you are pleasingly
Yeah.
plump. Look at those legs. So such pretty legs. So so coming from a family like that is like they're making baked mac and cheese and all the things.
The
Like
good kind.
yeah, the good kind, the real deal, right? So that
Yeah.
coming from that kind of environment, it was a safe space. Being voluptuous, curvy, fluffy, however you want to say it, was okay, right? It wasn't a thing until it became extreme. Uh,
Hmm.
I think I remember what I was going to tell you, what I was going to talk about. And that is about, I was saying where I am now. And I was saying with this medication, sometimes I would see people on the street and think there's going to come a time when you will only have to be heavy like that if you choose to be. Like that you will now have a choice that you don't ever have to be obese if you don't want to be, right?
Hmm.
And I know everybody has their choices. Some people like having that extra weight on them. But when I walk down the street and I look at people, I'm thinking there's going to be a time when you won't have to suffer like that. Like
Yeah.
the day is here where the technology is here that
Yes.
once we start taking the medication, you look around, you don't have as many obese people as we once did. That's what I was going to talk about.
Yeah. That's real. I've had that same thought. And that I feel like if we got to that point, it it would start to change the literal fabric of society. And this is where I start getting really weird, revolutionary, and I start kind of going down those roads because of the intersectionality of so many of these different facets of things. When you can't use people's obesity as a way to look down on them anymore, and you have to actually have a personality.
Mhm.
What then? You know,
Mhm.
there's a
Mhm.
lot of people who are getting by right now because they're pretty people. They don't have good personalities. There are people who are mean,
Mhm.
who are unethical, they're not good people, but they look good,
Mhm.
and they get away with a lot.
Mhm.
What happens when everybody looks good? Right? So that's a question. But then the next piece with that is, how is our horrible capitalist society that loves to break everyone down and divide all of us going to prevent that utopia from occurring? Because that is absolutely the next step with this. It's already started, if you ask me. I mean, when you see people fear mongering against the medications,
Yes, yes. So
right?
my thoughts on the medication. Some people are like, "Oh, it's the easy way out. Oh, it's this. Is oh, it's that." Like I feel like it is number one because sometimes people say, "Oh, well, there are other issues there that need to be addressed," and I don't deny that there are other issues that might be underlying there. But I say, get a therapist, do what you need to do to handle those issues. But this
Mhm.
disease needs to be arrested right now, like right
Mhm.
now, because someone could pass away in their sleep from sleep apnea, right? Like right now.
Yes.
And so, but I feel like it's really nobody's business. Like, of course, I have a channel and I am very vulnerable on my channel. I share the good, bad, and ugly of, going on this journey with people. But I want to show people the compassion and kindness that I want to receive for myself, right? I want to be that change, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like if you want to share that you're on a GLP-1, you share it. If you don't, if you want to keep it to yourself, it's nobody's business if you do, right? If that's what you
Absolutely.
need to do for your health and your wellness, you do that. Like I think people are in too much in other people's business. And
Yes.
who are you to say she should hike and she should starve herself to get to that? Who are you to say that? Right?
Mhm.
Let her, him or her go about taking care of their health and wellness to the best way that they know how, in the way that they want to, that they choose to do for themselves. Right.
I
And I
agree.
really take a stand for that because, you judge them because they're heavy. Now you're judging them because of the way they're losing weight. So what? So what?
Exactly.
Let them lose weight the
Absolutely.
way they want. That's none of your business. You take care of your house and let them take care of their house. And for the people out there who choose to be obese or overweight, they like it that way. They would never take the medication. I have somebody in my community that said, she left a comment saying, I have absolutely no interest in in weight loss medication. I'm thinking, well, why are you here? Right. And she wrote after that, I'm here because you have such a charismatic personality. Like, I love your videos, right? So I was like, if it can encourage you and uplift you, then come, bring it on. Like, how you say, when you say, bring it in, bring it in. But I really take a stand for humanity, right? And for people who are suffering, I think this drug is amazing. I think
Yeah.
this medication, this obesity medication is amazing. And I'm so glad it's here because I always say that the restriction, I'm smart enough to outsmart restriction. I can outsmart
Yes.
gastric bypass. I can outsmart the lap band. I can outsmart like any kind of restriction you put on my tummy. I can outsmart it. It's up here that the medication works for me. When it releases those hormones in the brain, into the brain, into the hypothalamus, I feel like it's a guard standing at the door saying, "You can't get in today," right? Because she's not going to be enslaved by you today. And
Gandalf, you shall not pass.
you shall not pass, right? And so I feel like for anybody who is suffering, who has tried everything, has tried and failed and tried and failed, and they might even be saying to themselves, should I even try this? Right? Will this work for me? Right? And I always say in my community, I think I'm a really tough case. Right? My doctor didn't start me at 2.5 lowest dose. She started me at 5, and then I skipped up to 10 because I know my body and I know that I needed a stronger dose, and so did my doctor. Right? But that's my own journey, and I support people on their own journeys too. And I think for the people who have all the things to say, somebody said to me in my community, why have you only lost 30 pounds in 3 months? Why haven't you lost more? It's like
10 pounds a month
I
is
know.
probably all anybody should be losing.
Right.
What?
But I didn't need to even really, I was kind and compassionate as I always am. But my community was like, shut them down, block them, So I take a stand for, I think people who suffer from overweight and obesity all their lives, they suffered enough. They suffered enough. And I think they need safe spaces. I think what you do to educate people, to really let them know what the real deal is about this is great. Like what Oprah's doing, I think is great. Like really getting the messages out there so people can learn and not be ignorant about why people are, carrying around an extra 100 pounds. It's not because we want to. It's not because we want to. So, that's kind of my stance on, people having, the ability to choose for themselves and for everybody else to mind their business.
Okay. I agree. Well, I think it looks like we're at about the time that you said before we'd have to wrap up. So I want to make sure that we get a chance to talk about your retreat.
Okay, great. So I was doing, I did my very first YouTube live, stumbled through it, didn't really know how to do it. Did my first YouTube live, and all these people came onto the live, and I just loved it. It was great to be able to interact with my audience real time. And so I already do retreats for my the business side. I bring people in and help them, craft their signature stories to help them sell more in their businesses. And and in their professional career selling their ideas. But I had never done anything specifically for the weight loss community, right? I didn't even think I would ever be in this. This is all new, right?
This
But
is
I
all
really, it's
surreal.
all surreal, right? But I really loved the community, right? The connection of that. And I said to them, I said, this was so much fun. If I had a retreat, if I put something together, would you want to come? Would you want to come together and meet in person? And so people were like sign me up, sign me up. I want to do it too. I want to do it too. So we just opened. We have a wait list. We just opened up the wait list yesterday. And so we are doing a retreat. We're bringing people together. So if you are on a Zepbound, on an Ozempic, a Saxenda, or any of those, you're on your journey, no matter where you are along the way. If you're, the pro, we call them the OGs like Kristen, right? Or you're just starting out, you're welcome. You're welcome. And it's an upscale event. We only have 15 seats available. But we're going to bring in like private chefs to do food demonstrations. I already talked to my nutritionist. We're going to bring a nutritionist in. It's going to be amazing. We've got some fun things planned for you. It's going to be just outside of Philadelphia. So if you're flying in, you fly into Philly. And we're really going to take good care of you here. So that starts. We'll share the link with Kristen. So if you're interested, you can sign up for that. And that's the thing that it's something I've never done before with only this community. Like nobody else can come. Just you, special people. But it'll be an amazing opportunity to connect with like-minded people and to learn and grow. And I find that the reason why I started my channel was because I wanted accountability and I wanted community. And I think that's been, the secret to part of my success in losing the weight that I have so far, that I'm not alone in this, right? That the medication has given me hope, but the community has given me support and connection. And I think that that's been really special. And so I'm trying to create that for all of you too.
That's awesome. And so I would come to this event and I can't because I have a conference that I am going to the same week already. Otherwise, I would be on the list.
You'd be one of our guest speakers.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah. So Ange puts on some really amazing events with the stuff that she does with her business. I've seen some of those for some of her other things. And so I know that this is going to be an exciting opportunity for people in that community to chop it up together in person and figure out, oh, you're the person who was always like with that's username, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep. Just think about all the health and wellness, beautiful things, fireside chats. Like it's going to be great. So just, we're planning it in the background to make sure that the experience is just top notch. My background is in hospitality. Before I got into building brands, I worked for all the big brands. And so we believe in the details, really taking care of our guests. And so we want to give them a wonderful experience.
You can definitely tell for sure.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you so much for coming. I'm glad we got to hang out together.
Me too. And this was nice to have a conversation for you. I know it's a little different for your audience, right? Because your audience is used to coming here and getting all the tea, going deep on all the stats. But we thought that we bring a little bit of the Zepbound journey with Ange over here. And, we always say that our community, they're bold, they're brave, and they're brilliant. And we wanted to bring a little bit something that you don't typically get over here to hear, because if you check out my channel, you're going to find that Kristen is bringing all of the fire to our channel. And that's what's really great. I think it's like a beautiful tapestry, right? Of everybody we're different, right? But we can come together. And I love the idea of Oprah and Gayle. So we have to do some more fun things together.
I know, definitely. That is going to be so much fun. Yeah, this was so great. Yay.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yay. Thanks for coming, Ange. All right, everybody. So that is the tea on Zepbound Journey with Ange, and we'll definitely be having Ange on. We did a Super Friends team up, so if you want to go over to her page, you will see where I went on Ange's show as well. We'll probably do these team ups with some regularity in the future going forward, so stay tuned and look for that, and make sure that you, if you have not, that you go over and you subscribe to Angie's channel. So we want you to hit that trifecta for both of us this round. And if you are thinking about taking an anti-obesity medication like these, absolutely make sure that you are talking to your doctor or medical professional, preferably an endocrinologist or an obesity medicine specialist, because those are the people who know these drugs the best. As always, I and Ange as well are just two people who are sharing our own experiences and our opinions on these matters. Neither of us are doctors, and we're not represented by any pharmaceutical companies. And finally, hit the trifecta. We want to make sure that we get to our 1,000 subscribers over here.
We got to get you over there. We got to get you over there.
We are giving away the gift card if we get within striking distance. So make sure you hit that trifecta and like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you on the other side.
Bye.